Good Friday afternoon to you. Hope your weekend's off to a great start. Thanks for joining us on Sports4CLE. We will talk plenty of Browns and Bears. We'll be joined by Laurence Holmes from 670 The Score in Chicago. Give us the Bears perspective on things. The D-Man will be along for our Pick 4 segment. And we begin by talking Browns with BrownsWire.com's Jeff Risdon. Kevin Stefanski addresses Odell Beckham Jr., gets through the practice, does not have an injury designation, is good to go barring something unforeseen. Stefanski talked about Odell's week of practice and what the Browns can expect from him on Sunday.
Yeah, he looked good, Scott. He had a good week, and I think he's ready to go.
You talked about a pitch count the other day. Do you have a sense of how much you're going to be able to use him?
I don't, Tom. I'll, like with every player, I'm in constant communication with the player and with their coach. So those are things that we talk about throughout the game, but he's ready to go. Hard to describe, I'd tell you, Nate. I think there were no limitations. He did everything. He took every rep, and he felt good coming off of this field. He's a professional. His attitude throughout this entire process has been really good. He understands that he's out there and he's going to go and try and help his team win. I think it's pretty simple.
Let's welcome in Jeff Risdon from BrownsWire.com. So, Jeff, Odell Beckham rejoins the offense. What do you expect?
I expect him to not break the world, set the world on fire right away. He hasn't played in 11 months. It will be different going into contact. I know he likes to, play that, he'll be ready. But that first hit, you still got to get up from that. So I want to see how he responds to that. I expect it to be favorable. I expect him to play about 50% of the snaps this weekend and get a couple of catches. They need him, quite frankly, with Jarvis Landry being sidelined. They need somebody to step up. What better place to bring in a former Pro Bowler than Odell Beckham than right now? I think he's going to be fine. I'm not worried about the knee long term. If the Browns have signed off on it, look, they kept him idle an extra 2 weeks on the erring on the side of safety. I think that's a smart move. And I think it'll pay off.
What do you think about the chemistry with Odell and Baker? Are you concerned about that? I mean, they worked quite a bit on the side. What about that?
They have. I think it would be better than last year. One of the things that I think gets glossed over was that it was, in fact, improving last year, the more that they played together in Stefanski's offense. Now they've got that down. So they have a very good idea of where one another sees how each play plays out. And I think that will come to light. Look, there's still going to be the occasional misfire. That's going to happen. Although Baker's been really good at that this year thus far. He will have the occasional throw where it's just not on target. And Odell might have the occasional route where he might not be exactly where Baker expects him. That's going to happen. It's not a mountain. It's a little molehill. They'll work through it, and they need the reps on it. And the more reps that they get, the sooner, the better, because it's really going to matter come December and January when this team hopes to be playing for a lot more important things than just winning the Battle of I-90 across the Great Lakes here.
When you talk about who could help minimize the loss of Jarvis Landry in that production on the offense, a guy whose name comes up, Demetric Felton, a rookie, offensive coordinator, Alex Van Pelt, on what he saw from Felton in that game last week where he kind of flashed.
He's a young guy that's done it the right way all the way through, learning two positions, playing in multiple positions in the receiver spot, inside and outside, and then really stepping up. That ball would have been Jarvis's ball had, Jarvis been in the game. So he really did a nice job of stepping in, and he's one of those guys we expect to take some of that production load off of, with missing juice out there, obviously.
What went through your mind? Is he a guy who would be comfortable lining up in the slot a fair amount?
Yeah, I think that's one of his better positions when he plays inside. Like I said, it'll be by committee how we fill that role.
What went through your mind when you saw that spin move?
Ball security. Biggest thing was ball security, so that's been addressed this week. He's got a target on his back. That ball was a little loose at times. Great job breaking tackles. We just got to do it with great ball security.
So, Jeff, how much Felton is good for the Browns offense?
You don't want to overdo it because he is a rookie. And Van Pelt alluded to the fact there he does have some ball security issues. I noticed that when I was watching the play, and I'm glad that Coach pointed that out and brought that, as his first mind wasn't, oh, what a fantastic play. Like, oh, my God, he almost fumbled. So I like that. I think they're going to be judicious with him. Look, he's an interesting matchup problem because he can line up in the backfield. He can play outside. He can play in the slot. He's a matchup dictator. Jarvis can kind of be that, and they don't really have anybody else who does that. Like if you put Rashard Higgins in the slot, he has a different purpose when he's in the slot. He's more of a possession type receiver. He's good at it, but he's not the dynamic player who can, go across the formation and carry a safety with him or alter the way that the defense is trying to play the offense. So I like the idea of using him, not overusing him though, because if you use him too much, it's going to be, and the Bears know this, Bears fans will know, when they had Devin Hester, who was a similar type player back in the day, 10 to 15 snaps of Devin Hester was more than enough for their offense because it made the point and made the impact that they needed. More than that, and you're asking a guy to probably be more than what he actually is to the offense. I'm not saying that Felton can't be that, but right now they don't need him to be more than that. And I think that the judicious sprinkling there, get him 5 to 10 touches, get him 20 to 25 plays on offense, just out of the balance of the playbook. And I think that'll be fine.
So let's shift our attention to the Bears defense. You have Khalil Mack and you have Robert Quinn. Pretty good bookends, kind of like the Browns have in Clowney and Myles Garrett. So Robert Quinn talked about what he sees from this Browns offense as a Bears defender.
Well, that everyone says start with the two-headed monster in the backfield with the Chubbs and Hunt. Of course, Chubbs don't ever seem to go down with one hit. And, Hunt is a very versatile back. They got a mobile quarterback. The receiver situation is a little up in the air right now, but, those guys are top dogs out there, so if they do go, it's another challenge. But, they got skills, skills. Even at the tight end position, they're very talented. So, again, it's just about doing our 111. Whatever the coach call. If you got coverage, make sure your man don't catch it. If you got a rush, make sure you get to the quarterback and stop the run if they decide to run your way. The good thing about playing defense is you don't have to make it too complicated to be great.
That might be my favorite quote. Good thing about defense, don't have to be complicated to make it great.
I hope that Joe Woods was listening to that conversation because it can certainly apply to Cleveland as well. Look, Quinn, he's been around. He's faced some really good offenses in his day. He's been around a long time. Khalil Mack has too. They're dangerous guys. The offensive tackles will have their hands full. The Bears, they have some guys up front and Akeem Hicks who can bring pressure from the inside too. It's going to require a really good day from the offensive line. And it's going to require Baker to make good, quick decisions with the football. The Bears' weakness is their coverage, quite frankly, that their outside cornerbacks are vulnerable. And that's an area where they can attack. They try to mitigate that by bringing a lot of pressure with guys like Quinn and Mack. They will bring some blitzes out of the slot at times. You got to be wary of that. But the offensive counter to the simple defense is keep it simple too. Make smart plays. Don't try to do anything overly elaborate. No double reverse. No backflip jet sweeps or anything like that. Keep it simple. Attack with what you're good at. Know what you're good at. I think the Browns have a pretty good grasp of that. And go at it and let your good offense beat their good defense because, quite frankly, I think the Browns can. And quite frankly, I think the Bears defense knows that too. I think they're going to have to try to do a little bit more than what Quinn let on there. I think he's sort of slow playing what their defensive game plan might be.
Yeah, the other thing is screen. There will be some well-timed screen plays that could end up being very big plays for the Browns offense. All right, we're going to head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason, and this is about Pete Prisco's power rankings that we had earlier in the week. Browns were ranked 10th in that one. So here's the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hi, James Fowler here. Hey, I'd just like to comment that looking at Pete Prisco's power rankings, I can't help but to notice that he's got the Chiefs and the Bills at 5 and 6. The Browns and the Ravens at, 9 and 10? And both the Chiefs and the Bills have lost to AFC North teams. The Bills by a nice little margin, too, when they lost to Pittsburgh. The Chiefs were beaten by the Ravens. They barely got past the Browns. losing the whole game until the last part of the fourth quarter before they took the lead. I don't understand why they're so high while the AFC North teams are 4 or 5 spots behind them. Thank you.
All right, that's a fair criticism. Again, I don't get caught up with the Browns being down at 10. They didn't play well against the Texans. But Pete Prisco had them lower than I thought he should have after the Chiefs loss as well. So
Yeah, I agree with that. And the sentiment that he had there, I think Prisco and a lot of people, it's not just Pete Prisco, every power poll, and I'm guilty of it too because I have to do one for Real GM as well. We have preconceived notions of what teams are going to be and what they aren't going to be going into the season. And it's hard to let those go after just 2 weeks. Everybody, myself included, had the Chiefs as the number 1 team in the AFC. They won the AFC title 2 years in a row. They deserve that benefit of the doubt. Now, through the first 2 weeks, have they been the AFC's best team? No, they have not. They haven't even been the best team in their own division. But it's difficult to balance, how far do you drop them? How much of it is the new season, they have a rebuilt offensive line. They have a lot of moving pieces and parts on their defense that haven't quite come together yet. You're still giving them some credit for being who they are and having Patrick Mahomes. And you're not necessarily worried about, the Raiders have looked really good. The Bills, what they did to Miami last week deserves a claim. Now, it also deserves an asterisk because Tua left, and I think that the Dolphins were just completely flat. But, this time of year, I think as long as you're within like 1 or 2 spots of where the teams are supposed to be, I think you're doing okay. I would say, though, that the Browns and the Ravens, quite frankly, are probably a little bit lower than they need to be in Briscoe's rankings. But, hey, who knows? It'll play itself out over the course of time. I prefer not to update power rankings until after 4 game periods. Do it after 4, 8, 12, and 16, or 17 in this case. And I think that's probably the more judicious way to go. So I wouldn't get too worried about it after 2 weeks. Now, after 4 weeks, if it's still skewed this way, then we might have a problem.
Jeff Risdon from BrownsWire.com and I'm going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, Kevin Stefanski coaching up Browns fans. Sports for CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
Sports for CLE continues. We continue talking Browns. Well, coaches coach. It's what they do. And Kevin Stefanski today trying to coach up Browns fans for this weekend's game.
Our fans, they were really, really good last week. And like I told the team, we have to be better. I have to coach better. Our players have to play better. I'm expecting a little bit more from our fans even this week. We can affect the game. When we're playing down there on the lake, they have a major effect on the game. They have a rookie quarterback making his first start, who a lot of our fans are probably used to cheering for. And in this case, we got to make life really hard on their offense. So expect everybody in their seats at kickoff, and then really expecting everybody to be loud throughout. Don't wait till 3rd down. So that's my challenge to our fans this week. And again, they were great last week. I'm asking them to be even better this week.
Jeff Risdon, everybody's got to be better, including the fans. It's the progression during the season.
Hey, you got to keep raising that bar. Look, I wasn't at First Energy, but I actually listened to the game on the radio live, and then I rewatched it, and you could hear the fans pretty well over the radio calls. So if he wants it to get louder, so be it. It's a great way to, again, he talks about Justin Fields coming in, first start on the road, hostile environment. Myles Garrett coming after him, Jadeveon Clowney coming after him. There's a lot of moving pieces and parts that are coming after him. Yeah, I like the idea of the noise. Browns fans know how to make noise. I've been in that stadium before. I've been at Cavs games. I've been at Indians games where it's just absolutely riotous loud. And if Kevin Stefanski demands it, y'all better give it to him.
Yeah, without question. All right. Another one of the voicemail and truth and reasons. This one regarding the Browns defense and how we use Myles Garrett.
Hey there. It's Jersey Joe from Cleveland. I've been watching football for I'm 76 for 70 years. Browns defense, they have to move Garrett around. They can't just keep him on the end, being double teamed, and then when he gets through the double team, there's another guy there. Please, he has to be moved around like Devados. Put him in the middle, put him on the end, put him and Clowney on one side. I truthfully believe Woods has got to go, but that's just my opinion. But the main thing is they got to move Garrett around the defensive line. They just can't keep him there. It's too difficult. He's double teamed and triple teamed.
I agree with that, and supposedly Miles has the ability to move around and make those calls. I don't agree with the Woods just yet. I want to give the guy some time, cut him a little bit of slack. But I agree. Myles Garrett, make it a mystery where he's coming from.
Absolutely, and I'll go back to some of the Jadeveon Clowney knows very well. J.J. Watt, when he was in Houston at the beginning of his prime, he lined up on the left side, on the right side. He would line up standing up. He would line up as a nose tackle every now and then. Keep that offensive line guessing. Keep the quarterback wondering, oh my goodness, where's 95 at? They do need to do more of that. I totally agree with that. I'm with you, Dave. I'm not out on Joe Woods yet. The door is open, but I need to see some more soon from him. But he, again, so many new pieces with all the injuries that they have, coming and going. I'm optimistic that he will get figured out, but one of the ways that you can figure it out pretty quickly is to let Myles Garrett get more creative, line him up, do more things. Heck, drop him as a slot corner, just as a look, just to see what happens with the offense, and then flip it right before the snap. One of the things that the Bears offense does, they take a lot of time at the line of scrimmage when they get up there before they snap the ball. You can expect that with a rookie quarterback too. You got a lot of time to move guys around. It's a great weekend for Joe Woods and for Myles Garrett to experiment. Hey, start on the right side, run over to the left side just before the snap, just to see what happens. I think that sort of thing can really mess up a young guy like Justin Fields.
Yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly. What do you expect? What do you expect to see from Justin Fields? My thought is you're going to see some plays where you're like, wow, and then you're going to see some plays where it's like, ooh.
Yeah, his first week he didn't. Well, he hasn't done a lot. Wasn't asked to do a lot. He has forced a couple of throws. One of the things that I like is that he wasn't able to extend plays with his legs. And when he did so, he kept his eyes down the field. That's a good sign for a young quarterback. Look, I like Justin Fields. I'm bullish on him long term. You got to get to him early. You got to keep him wondering. You can't let him get easy completions. You can't let him get into a rhythm. We saw that at Ohio State, that if you mix things up, the Ohio State-Indiana game is a great example, where you show one coverage at the beginning of a play and then you switch into something else. You can confuse them that way. You've got a lot better athletes in Cleveland than you do down in Bloomington, Indiana. Those are the type of things that Joe Woods needs to be doing this week. I think he's going to be effective. I think he is going to run. He's going to have a couple of runs where he gets 15 or 20 yards and moves the chains with his feet. You got to limit the big plays from the passing game. If he completes a pass to a tight end Cole Kmet, who looks like he's going to be a big target, tackle him right away. Don't let him get a hot connection with Allen Robinson down the field. That's the important part. You have to live with something. Just like you live with something with Patrick Mahomes, you got to take something else away. I think if you let Fields run a little bit, look, you got J.O.K. This is the type of guy you drafted J.O.K. specifically to defend with the Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes and people like that who can do the dual threats. Let that play itself out and take away the passing game from him. Get him frustrated, get him worrying, and make him think about it. That's a good question for your next guest, Laurence Holmes, too, who's a very good guest. Great get by you guys, by the way.
Yeah,
Laurence.
That will be fun conversation with Laurence Holmes. Okay, Browns 17 of 27 is what they have allowed on third down conversions. John Johnson talked about the struggles. It has to get better. Here's John Johnson about Browns' struggles on third downs.
Yeah, I think we just got to understand the situation. Every team has a menu. Say it's third and 2 to 6. They're going to run a certain type of plays. 3rd and 7 to 10, they're going to run a certain type of plays. So I think we really just got to lock in on what the team is trying to do to attack us, that specific weekend. I think as we move on, we'll get better at that, and I think we ultimately will be great at that. I think we're moving in the right direction. We just got to find our rhythm. Guys got to be out there together. We got to play off of one another. Everyone has to really lock in and do their job. You know, each 1 to 11th has to do their job, and I think we're moving in the right direction.
And again, third down, John Johnson alluded to it with kind of understanding what teams are trying to do against you. That's half of stopping them. They got to get better at it. That's 40% is bad, and they're well over 50, probably over 60.
Yeah, it's been ugly, and I think Johnson alluded to it a little bit there. There is still some coordination going on between these guys, and honestly, he's a little bit responsible for it, because in the Houston game especially, there were times where I didn't think that John Johnson was where he needed to be at the time he needed to be on third downs. And I'm sure he's a guy who will definitely point the finger at himself. He's an accountable leader. But it does come from – they will get better with it as they improve their chemistry and they understand how guys react. The constant shuffling at linebacker doesn't help. It's difficult for safeties when they don't know who's going to be playing in front of them and what's going to happen. Like Malcolm Smith plays a very different style of game than Mac Wilson does and Sione Takitaki does. And learning how each of those guys, the intricacies of what you have to do to react off of them, it's something that Johnson is going to get better at. It's something that Ronnie Harrison is going to get better at. And then he inject Grant Delpit in there, who's a bit of a wild card, and that we don't really know exactly what he does well just yet. We're getting a pretty good idea pretty quickly, but it's going to get better. But yeah, it has to get better because you cannot continue to give up. Even like you said, a 40% rate is not good. You got to get down to that rate. You got to get there quickly because if you can't get off the field, that's less opportunities for your offense to score. It wears your defense down. Means you're vulnerable to more injuries on your defensive side of the ball. We don't need any of that already. So yeah, he's right out here. They've got to get better at it soon.
Jeff Risdon from BrownsWire.com and I going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, Alex Van Pelt talks about the challenge the Bears defense presents the Browns offense. Sports4CLE, you'll be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns Bears. Alex Van Pelt, Browns offensive coordinator, well aware this Bears defense, biggest challenge the Browns will have faced so far this season.
They are different. Obviously, a 3-down team in base that gives you a little different look. It's kind of Nick Fangio-ish at times. Vic, that's who you see in it. But they're good. They're talented, extremely talented. A lot of good players on that side of the football. Obviously, they put a lot of money into the defensive side, and it shows. They're good through the middle. They're good on the edge. It's a talented defense. It's going to be one of our biggest challenge offensively this week.
And Jeff, they got to be able to move the football. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, be efficient on first down. Don't necessarily get away from the run. Look, Nick Chubb, he's proven that he's going to maximize his yards, but there are going to be times where he's going to get stopped. And if you get in the 2nd and 8 or 2nd and 9, it doesn't necessarily mean erase the run from your playbook. That plays into Chicago's hands. They like to be able to do that. You got to keep with it. You need to get 25 to 30 carries minimum out of this game between Chubb and Hunt. That's going to control it. They're going to get theirs. Trust your offensive line. Look, he said that they put a lot of money into their defense, and it's a very good defense. The Browns put a lot of money and resources into their offensive line, and it's a great one. It's time for your strength to go against their strength. The run game is there. Baker on bootlegs and waggles and things like that, those plays will be open for him, and he's going to find some room down the field because they're outside corners. Again, that's the weakness of their defense. They're not bad. It's not like they're chopped liver out there, but they are vulnerable down the field. So if you can run the ball, keep those safeties creeping up, that's when Baker can take shots. That's when Anthony Schwartz's speed can kick in. The Browns have the tools to combat this defense effectively. They just have to smartly use them and not make mistakes in execution. And so far, it's been pretty good. It could be better. It needs to be better than it was against Houston. That's for sure. You can't have the drop passes. You can't have, the little gaffes, but the potential is certainly there for the Browns offense to win against this Bears defense. And I hope we see it, because if not, that Bears offense, look, it's a rookie quarterback making his first start, but there's some trepidation on the defensive side. That I think all Browns feel that with the way that they played the first 2 weeks.
Yeah. All right. So Bears defensive coordinator Sean Desai talked about what he sees from this Browns offense.
I think they're, for lack of a better word, stacked. They're loaded up front. Their O-line is aggressive and physical. Their running backs run angrily. They're physical backs, downhill backs that can make you miss in space. The quarterback is playing at a really high level. He can extend plays. He's got a cannon for an arm. And they've got the receivers out there that will go make plays as well on the ball. So, and the tight ends, are some of their top targets in the pass game, who are fast and have big catch radiuses. So, all of those are the challenges that we're going to have to rise up to play a good brand of football.
And Jeff, to illustrate, he mentions Baker Mayfield playing at a high level, 81.6% completion percentage. What does he need to do to keep that up?
Obviously keep delivering the ball on time. I think that's the biggest thing, is that you haven't seen him hold the ball excessively long. He's trusting his receivers to be where they are supposed to be on timing routes. And when he looks their way, he understands exactly where to put that ball. And I think he's got better chemistry with his receivers. I saw it personally with Harrison Bryant quite a bit. He's got a better idea of how Harrison wants the ball delivered to him, which shoulder he wants it on based on the certain routes. And those are the things that the chemistry of having a second year in the same offense working together develop. So we're seeing that. I don't think that's going to go away. Obviously, he's got to get the protection, and he's got to continue to trust his receivers. But yeah, he has a chance to set the NFL record for the highest completion record or ratio over the first 3 weeks. So I believe it's 80.6. He's on pace to do it, and that's Drew Brees. Anytime you're more accurate than Drew Brees, that's saying something for how well you're playing.
Yeah, and you know what? It's again, the progression of a guy, second year in the system, second year with the head coach, understands what the coach wants, coach understands him, not asking him to do crazy stuff. All that factors into it. Well, Kevin Stefanski talked about the defense and just the need to get more pressure and trying to get Myles Garrett going.
Yeah, I do think Myles is a type of player. He gets a ton of attention. He's getting chipped. He's getting double teamed. So the production in terms of sacks, as we all know, that they sometimes come in bunches. But we've really focused on playing solid defense, being true to our rush lanes, being sound in what we do as a defense. I think some of those high leverage moments, like third down, we just got to play better defense. Sometimes it's rush, sometimes it's coverage. We've had good pressure, and then you need those pressures to translate into a sack or translate into an incompletion, those type of things. But I'll tell you, the guys are working very hard. I was very pleased with the week of practice that we had specifically with our front. I thought the guys really worked very hard this week.
I expect the defense to be better, just because usually when coach comes out and says it's a point of emphasis, team kind of gets the message. At least it has been that way in the 2 years with Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah, and you have to understand Stefanski and his tone there a little bit. He's not going to call people out. He's not going to single them out individually. But you can tell he's like the disappointed teacher. Like, y'all are better than this. And that's effectively what he's telling these guys. Now, they do have to be careful. Myles can't go crazy and lose contain. We just talked about how Justin Fields can win with his legs. You can't be flippant about it. You can't be overly aggressive, because he will exploit that. But they do have to get to him. They do have to get Myles going. Look, the Bears' offensive line, it's certainly not to the level of the Browns. It's probably not to the level, honestly, what they saw in Houston last week. They're going to be able to get some pressure against it. And if they can stop the run early, the Bears' David Montgomery is a guy, he's a quality back, but he's not a guy that's necessarily going to scare you. So they've got they have the blueprint. They have talent and personnel in place to do what they need to do to stop it. They do just have to execute better. As Stefanski said, they have to understand their landmarks and execute the plays, because, again, it's there for the taking. Let's see it. It's week 3. Saw it a little bit in week 1, didn't see enough of it in week 2. It's time. It's time, Miles. It's time, Jadeveon. It's time, defense. Let's go, Joe Woods. Come on. We need it.
Jeff Risdon from BrownsWire.com and I are going to step aside, take one more time out. On the other side of the break, we'll see how Jeff sees this Browns-Bears matchup shaking out. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line, a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Sports for CLE continues. We continue talking Browns Bears Sunday 1 o'clock kickoff with Jeff Risdon from BrownsWire.com. All right, Jeff, how do you see this one shaking down? What do you expect to see, and what kind of game do you think the Browns are in for with the Bears?
You know, I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be a beautiful day. It looks like the weather's going to be perfect, 70 degrees, not a cloud in the sky, not much wind. That means you can do whatever you want offensively. And I like the diversity of the Browns offense to attack a good Bears defense. And I think that the Browns are going to find more success with their offense than what Chicago's offense finds with Justin Fields, with limited receiving talent. Look, Allen Robinson, that's a dude right there. He can play. And they're not bereft of talent, but the Browns just have more talent. And Baker Mayfield playing the way he is right now, I expect him to be able to outscore what Justin Fields and the Bears do. The Bears, that's a good football team. I'm not going to disrespect them in any way. They're going to get some points. That they will get a couple of stops too. And they also play good special teams. That's been a hallmark of the Bears going way back now. They're not going to beat themselves by making errors that way. As long as the Browns don't make the dumb mistakes, the fumbles after the catch, the weird, muffed punts or anything like that. Dropping the snap, Jamie Gillen. You can't do those things against the Bears because they will take advantage of it. I think the Browns are going to come out and play a clean game. I think that they're, and John Johnson sort of alluded to it, they are learning what one another does better and coming together as a team. And I expect, Stefanski gave them some, look, for Kevin Stefanski, again, with the clip that we just played, that's a fairly harsh tone for Kevin Stefanski. It might not seem that way when you see some other coaches, that froth at the mouth around the league, but he's going to have these guys ready. I think it's going to be competitive. I think it's going to be a great game to be at. As Kevin Stefanski said, be loud, be proud, be flailing around whatever you can, and enjoy a Browns win that will probably be satisfying but a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a close game as well. Jeff Risdon from BrownsWire.com. Jeff, as always, thanks so much for the time and insight. Appreciate it very much.
Thanks.
All right, Jeff Risdon from BrownsWire.com. Time for our Pick 4 segment. Let's welcome in the D-Man, Dennis Manoloff from WTAM 1100, 106.9 FN. D-Man 3-1 a week ago. I went 1-3. A disappointing week for Dave's picks. So the D-Man now up on me a full game as he's 4-4 for the year. I am 3-5. All right, D-Man, let's get it rolling. Browns are 7-point favorites at home against the Bears, led by Justin Fields. Where are you going with this one, D-Man?
I'm going to go Browns minus the points for a number of reasons, one of which is the Browns did not play particularly well this past Sunday in their home opener against the Texans. So they're going to want to get that taste out of their mouth. I know they won by double digits, but they didn't really pass the eye test as a super team in the AFC. So they're going to be itching for redemption, if you will, especially on the defensive side. And this is an opportunity for Joe Woods' defense to really have an impact on the game, because we all like Justin Fields around here in Northeast Ohio. We loved him at Ohio State. But the fact is, he's a rookie. He's making his first NFL start. And here is an opportunity for Joe Woods and the Browns defense, which has, played pretty much bend but don't break type of defense since he's been the DC. Now you get a chance to really make Justin Fields' life uncomfortable. I wouldn't say miserable because I think Fields is talented enough to survive it. But you can really rattle him potentially. And you saw a little bit of that from the Bengals defense when Fields had to come in for Dalton last week after Andy Dalton got injured. So, look, if Bill Belichick and his schemes can constantly cause headaches for rookie quarterbacks, why can't Joe Woods and his schemes cause a problem for Justin Fields on Sunday? And I speak specifically of blitz packages. I would love to see Woods' defense add some more blitz packages to the mix. I think they will, and I think the defense is going to be just as potent for the Browns as the offense.
Man, you're making me want to change my pick. I'm going with the Bears and the points. I want to see more aggressiveness from the Browns defense. Haven't seen it yet. I think Justin Fields creates some problems just with his legs. I think it's a low-scoring game. I think the Browns win, but I don't think they cover the 7 points. So I'm going Bears +7 at First Energy Stadium. And Browns fans aren't going to like that, but I think they win a low-scoring game.
I was going to say, Dave, if you don't have them covering, then I'm nervous.
I'm listening to you, and I'm ready to change my pick, but I'm sticking with the Bears +7. All right. This one we both agree on. Steelers at home, -3 against the Bengals. What are you thinking with that one?
Well, first of all, I think the Steelers are being undervalued here. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been bullish on the pick. Sorry about the dog.
Yeah, that's right. Dog pound's ready for Sunday.
Oh, no. All right, watch this. On live TV. Kinger, knock it off.
The dog whisperer, too.
Yeah, we'll see. But anyway, the Steelers, I get that there's a hedge here because of Roethlisberger's health, and there's concerns about how strong he's actually going to be. But the Bengals' struggles in Chicago factor into this just as much as my belief in the Steelers, if you will. Here he is.
There's Kinger. That's right. Dog Pound wants to be involved.
What's that?
I said the Dog Pound wants to be involved.
Yeah, absolutely. But the bottom line is I trust the Steelers' defense and their pressure against a, shall we say, leaky Bengals offensive line and Joe Burrow having trouble against that pass rush. I trust the Steelers' defense just as much, if not more, than I trust the Steelers' offense. If this had been 3.5, I probably would have shied away from it because when I play this game in my head, I see a field goal game. But I'm going to go with the Steelers, even though they'd have to win by more than 3 for me to win.
Yeah, and I think Najee Harris finally has big game running the football against the Bengals. All right, Patriots -2.5 at home against the Saints. Who do you like in that one?
Well, I love Belichick here. And when you and I have picked games over the years, I will go with Belichick's Patriots a lot. Even last year, they didn't have a good year, and I was picking them to win some games, so I was off. But I feel like I have a decent understanding of how Belichick and the Patriots work, even as they moved on from Tom Brady. The bottom line is they just got done rocking the Jets and making Zach Wilson's life miserable. Jameis Winston crashed down to earth after his 5-touchdown performance against the listless Packers in the opener. Then Winston has all kinds of trouble against Carolina in game 2 for the Saints. And I don't see why Belichick and his defensive schemes can't cause more problems for Jameis Winston. And therefore, I see Winston struggling. New Orleans is on the road. The Patriots are feeling it after the victory over the Jets. And anytime I get the Patriots as a favorite by, not having to cover a huge number, I'm almost always going to go to them. And in this case, they don't have to cover a huge number. So sign me up for the Patriots.
All right, last one for you. Raiders hosting the Dolphins. Raiders 4.5-point favorites.
Yeah, I'm probably getting too cocky here with the Raiders, but they have been incredibly good in these first 2 weeks. I had a chance to watch pretty much all of each of those 2 games. Their opener against the Ravens in Las Vegas, and then they go to Pittsburgh on a short week, and they beat the Steelers. Derek Carr, the most undervalued, underrated quarterback on the planet, has been sensational for 2 weeks. The Raiders are going to be feeling it. I don't know that Derek Carr is going to allow this team to have its head swell too much, so it's not going to be like they're going to take the Dolphins lightly, especially a Dolphins team that doesn't have Tua. So I think they'll be ready to go, and they will be, even if Josh Jacobs is hobbled a little bit, I'm not sure exactly what his status is, but he's been battling the toe. Even without a running game, I think Derek Carr and those offensive weapons on the outside, including Henry Ruggs and Waller, are going to be enough to carry the Raiders to at least a touchdown victory over the Dolphins.
All right, my other two, after we agreed on the Steelers -3, I'm going to go Cardinals -7.5 at the Jaguars. Jaguars are a mess, and I don't see that getting better anytime soon. And I think the Cardinals light it up. That offense is the real deal, and I don't see the Jaguars keeping up with them. And I'm also going Ravens -8 against the Lions. I think Baltimore runs all over that defense for Detroit. So I'm going Ravens -8 in Detroit. I'm going two big favorites on the road. I think they both get it done. D-Man has a one-game lead on me. He's 4-4 on the year. I'm 3-5. One-game lead. I'm jinxing you. One-game lead on me as we head into week 3. D-Man, as always, appreciate the time and the insight. We'll get back at it and see if I can catch you next week.
Thank you very much, Dave. Appreciate it.
All right, the D-Man, Dennis Manoloff from 1100 WTAM 106.9 FM. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we're going to get the Chicago perspective on things. Laurence Holmes from The Score in Chicago joins us to talk about the Bears as they get ready for the Browns.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine. Too late at night. But feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
Sports4CLE continues. We continue talking Browns, Bears, Sunday, 1 o'clock at First Energy Stadium. Let's get a little bit perspective from the Bears side of things. We welcome in Laurence Holmes from The Score in Chicago. Laurence, appreciate the time very much. We've heard Bears fans want to see Justin Fields. A lot of folks familiar with the Ohio State graduate. How excited are Bears fans? How excited are Bears players that, in fact, Justin Fields will be making his NFL debut as a starter against the Browns?
Fans couldn't be more excited. I mean, this is what they've been waiting for, the opportunity to see Justin Fields. And you have to go all the way back to the draft, where people didn't think it was possible that Justin Fields would be available where the Bears were drafting. And then you saw that Denver passed on him, and it became a possibility. Once we get to that place, there was a level of excitement around Chicago. You got to understand that that was a good day. That was like the best day for Bears fans, because that was the day when the Aaron Rodgers report came out, that he was unhappy and that he was trying to figure out a way to leave, and maybe he'd retire and maybe he'd become the Jeopardy host. All of those things were going on draft day, and Bears fans were having this awesome day. So when they get the news that they traded up to get Justin Fields, it was magical. It was downright magical because that was the quarterback that most people wanted in Chicago, and now he was available, and the Bears had him. So between now and then, you had Bears fans really starting to dream big about what was possible, and having someone that's going to man the position. And I'm sure the people in Cleveland can relate because the history is similar with the quarterbacks and trying to find someone who's going to hold down the position. And now it looks like Baker is done that for Cleveland, and people here in Chicago are hoping that Justin does that for the Bears.
What about what you saw from him in preseason, and are there some areas that you want to see some growth in from Justin Fields, do you think?
Well, in the preseason, we saw him make some really big wow moments where you go, okay, this guy has got spectacular athletic gifts, and you're seeing him throw the ball really well. There was one play that people keep kind of coming back to, and it was a game against Buffalo where he missed a blitz and a hot, and he ended up getting plastered. I mean, helmet off, do-rag off, like the whole 9 yards. So that gave some people some pause on him. I like the fact that the Bears and Matt Nagy were very honest in the way that they were going to use him. And they allowed him, they brought him in, and he got his own plays in the first 2 games of the season. Now, he had to play once Andy Dalton got hurt, but it was the plan for him to play the entire time. So they're trying to kind of wean him, try to bring him along a little slower than having him start. But now that Andy Dalton is at least down for this week, they have to put him in there and give him his chance. The concerns are pocket presence. What we're seeing with him is as he tries to figure all of this stuff out, there's some drifting. So he gets to the end of his back pedal, and as plays break down and as he's going through his progressions, he's drifting backwards. Patrick Mahomes actually talked about this as one of the things that he wanted to improve on, and we saw it in the Super Bowl with Mahomes, where he ended up running, I think, for 500 yards of scramble yards because of what Tampa Bay's defense had done to him. I see Justin Fields doing some of that stuff similarly and not having the same type of success when he actually does throw the ball. But it's 2 games in. So, yeah, there's a ton that he can improve on, but there's no one here who doesn't think that he can. And when you look at what he did at Ohio State, when you look at the way that he's built up, the family that he comes from, the way he approaches and attacks getting prepared, there's no one here that doesn't think that he can't figure all of this stuff out.
A lot was made of the Bears' offensive line, not being the strongest. How have they held up in the first couple of weeks? And does Justin Fields, I mean, he's a heck of an athlete. Does he help mitigate anything that's deficient with the offensive line, do you think?
Jason Peters was brought in, 39-year-old left tackle, and he's talked about over the last couple of days that there's a difference for blocking for Andy Dalton versus blocking for Justin Fields. You have a young quarterback who's still trying to process things, and the processing takes a little while longer, so maybe the ball doesn't come out as quickly. He's also mobile, so there are choices to be made on how long you have to hold a block for a player like Justin Fields, because he's got the escapability, he's got the athleticism to get up and down the field. The offensive line overall has been a mess. And I'm not going to lie to you. Like, the fact that Jason Peters was on a boat fishing before they made the phone call to him and he's your starting left tackle is problematic. Like, it's problematic. They had cut Charles Leno, who was a serviceable left tackle. Like, if you're looking at where he was in the rankings, he was somewhere between 17 and 20. They didn't want to pay him. They thought that they had gotten everything solved by drafting 2 tackles. Both of those tackles were particularly right tackles, and they were going to move Tevin Jenkins to left tackle. He hurt his back. He's already had back surgery. He's gone for a majority of the season. There was no one on the Bears roster that had left tackle experience, and that's a terrible way to go into a football season. Jason Peters so far has been pretty good. The PFF grades on him at left tackle have been him in the top 10. Although the sack fumble that Justin Fields gave up was all off of pressure that Jason Peters allowed. So when I start looking at this from the perspective of Cleveland and say there are two very angry men that patrol the end for Cleveland, I am concerned that they are going to be able, and Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney are going to be able to do some real damage to the Bears' offensive line that has been a bit of a patchwork through the first 2 games.
Take us through some skill position guys that are there for the Bears that Browns fans need to be aware of, because there's some pretty good skill position guys on that Bears offense.
I think people know about Allen Robinson. I think that he's built enough of a reputation in the NFL. Now, he had a huge drop last week, and Justin Fields kind of dropped one into the bucket, and it was a touchdown, and Allen Robinson missed it. It was good coverage, but he missed it. It's usually a catch that he makes. Most people might not know about Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney is the opposite wide receiver. He's really fast. He takes tops off defenses. He's really good at the deep crossing routes. And he and Justin Fields, I think, could have a really long future together. David Montgomery, the Bears running back, is phenomenal. He's so hard to tackle. Even he makes 3-yard runs look spectacular, because even if he's hit in the backfield, he finds a way to fall forward. He's got special talent. We saw it when he was at Iowa State. I think that if he doesn't get too beat up throughout his career and he runs with a lot of ferocity, I think that he can be a very special player for the next couple of seasons, because you know how it is with running backs. Like, they take so much damage that by year 5 or 6, a lot of guys are kind of done. But as we enter year 3 with Montgomery, you're going to see a play in this game, I promise you, with David Montgomery, where it looks like the Browns have him. It looks like they've got him in the backfield, and he's going to escape and get a big gainer. And that's the type of stuff that this offense needs. It needs more explosive plays. They've been playing very horizontally and not a lot vertically. So we're hoping that we're going to see Justin Fields be given the opportunity to take the offense and make it a little bit more vertical.
Laurence Holmes from 670 The Score in Chicago and I are going to be right back after a quick timeout. We'll flip sides of the ball, talking Bears defense, Browns offense. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Sports4CLE continues. We continue talking Browns, Bears with Laurence Holmes from 670 The Score in Chicago. Laurence, let's flip sides of the ball. That Bears defense has a great reputation. Maybe a little bit of a slow start against the Rams and Matthew Stafford, but boy, they look good against the Bengals.
I mean, Dave, you can tell the truth, man. They were embarrassed against the Rams. Like, they really, really were. Cooper Kupp was like, I saw the statistic on it. He was the most open receiver on a pass play of 40 yards in the last 3 years on that touchdown that he scored. Like, that's insane. But they did get it back together in the second game. Akeem Hicks was great, collapsing the pocket from the middle of the defensive line. Khalil Mack kind of showed back up and drew pressure. Robert Quinn, who needs to have a big year for the Bears, he played really well in the second game of the season. And so far, he's off to a good start. The guy that I keep trying to tell people, and I'm glad that you're allowing me to talk with your audience so that I can tell people about Roquan Smith. Roquan Smith is one of the best young linebackers in the NFL. I feel like he was snubbed in both Pro Bowl and All-Pro voting last year. He didn't make the top 100 NFL players, which shocked me because it should be peers. It should be his guys out there that see this guy. He is a sideline-to-sideline linebacker. He is an excellent tackler. They're finally unleashing him as a blitzer, and he made a huge play. He made 2 huge plays last week, had a sack off a blitz, had an interception for a touchdown. This is a special player, and I think that he is now elevating towards being the best player on the Bears defense.
And that's a guy that the Bears probably are going to rely on to shut down the Browns' running attack. I would imagine when you think Browns, you think Chubb, you think Hunt, and you think that offensive line and running the football. That's where Roquan Smith, he's pretty good at that too.
He is. He comes up and he's not afraid. You know, he will fill in the run game. He can stay with a lot of tight ends in the pass game. I just think that he's got some of the the Bears as a franchise. We know about linebackers here. Like we can see the special ones because we've seen it. And in my time of covering the team, I got the chance to cover Brian Urlacher and Lance Briggs, 2 really special linebackers. One of them in the Hall of Fame, and maybe another one gets an opportunity this year to go to the Hall of Fame. Roquan Smith is on that trajectory. He's that type of player, and he can be a menace defensively. I think he's very, very special, and I hope the rest of the league starts to wake up to how good he is.
Yeah, I'm with you. I have seen him play. I agree with you. All right, before I let you go, I know you're tight on time. Take us through how you think this unfolds. What do you think some of the keys are? Who do you think comes away with this one?
Well, it's interesting to me to look at this with Justin Fields getting an opportunity to start. I'm so glad that we know he's starting, that they know he's starting, and there's no ambiguity because that gives Matt Nagy an opportunity to put a game plan together that is Justin Fields specific. If you see Justin Fields throw 25 times from the pocket, the Bears are going to lose. But if you see them run some play action, if you see bootlegs, if you see waggles, anything that's getting him to change the launch point, I think that will be an easier time, run him away from some of the pressure that Cleveland can provide. And I know that the Browns don't have the sack numbers yet, and that scares me, like walking into this game, because that defense is too good to not have a bigger presence in the pass defense game. If we see the same type of defensive effort that the Bears showed against the Bengals, now I don't expect them to win the turnover battle 4-1 like they did last week. But if we can just see the same level of effort, I think that they've got a shot. Cleveland's a better team. Cleveland's a team that has Super Bowl aspirations. The Bears are hopeful that they can win a wild card. So it's hard for me to pick against Cleveland in this game, but everyone's super excited about the dawn of Justin Fields' career. And for us in Chicago, the bigger question isn't even, do they win? The question is, does Justin Fields play well enough that it will allow this coaching staff to say, maybe we should just go forward with him even when Andy Dalton is healthy?
Yeah, and Laurence, I'll tell you, his ability to run concerns me, even though the Browns' defense is really good. They've had trouble with Mahomes. They had trouble with Tyrod Taylor, and Justin Fields is a more athletic version than Tyrod Taylor, and that's a concern.
He's a big, strong dude, and it's weird because I don't think that people understand how big he is. Like, and when you stand next to him, you're like, oh, wow. So this is a guy that's kind of got a linebacker build, but he's a quarterback. So I'm hopeful in designed run plays, like they do a lot of zone read stuff. But in some of those plays, I hope that we are seeing Cleveland spread out and maybe use some of the ideas that Lamar Jackson and Greg Roman used in Baltimore, where you're running and attacking straight up the middle of the defense. But it has to be through some of these spread formation to make it so that there are less people in the box. But you're right. Like, he's a weapon. And figuring out how to deploy him is up to Matt Nagy. And I hope that they get it right, because if they do, then we got something. We got something we haven't had for a really long time, a quarterback that Bears fans can truly believe in and get behind.
And Laurence, I hope for your sake and Bears fans' sake you get that quarterback, but I hope he doesn't show up in Cleveland on Sunday because the Browns need this one, and Browns fans understand what Bears fans are going through. Laurence Holmes from 670 The Score in Chicago, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it. Thanks for the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Laurence.
Thank you. We'll talk again during basketball season.
Sounds good. All right. Laurence Holmes from 670 The Score in Chicago. That'll do it for this edition of Sports 4 CLE. We will see you again Monday, and we will wrap up that Browns-Bears game, week 4 of the NFL season already coming at us as week 3 Browns-Bears. We'll have all of that rehash of the Browns-Bears game coming up. Sports 4 CLE. We'll see you Monday. Have a great weekend, everyone.